All right, guys, let's roll. So I want to be respectful of your time tonight. I know you want to be with the family and all that good stuff. So I'm going to just quickly dive into what we're going to be talking about. I spoke with most, if not all of you this week, and was super excited to talk with all of you. Actually, it was great to learn more about you and your situations and hear more about what you're doing and what your objectives are when it comes to investing. I heard a lot of similar stories and things that I can totally relate to when it comes to, taking the leap into investing in real estate. It is a daunting task. It's intimidating. And we're going to talk a lot about that tonight and some of the things that you can do to really grow as an investor. And basically what I'm going to be sharing is a blueprint of how I went from failing in real estate to being in a position to buy a bunch of deals. So let's go ahead and dive into it. If you don't know me, that is me in the flesh. So Ben Fredericks, that's my beautiful wife, Kelly, and our beautiful daughter, Stella, who is 4. And tonight, what I'll tell you about is how I went from owning 6 rental properties and how we bought 240 deals last year. And by the way, I did none of this with my own money. So it was all other people's money until I started building up some money of my own to be able to start buying deals. So just to give you a little history on my experience in real estate investing, it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. All right. So it's been trials and tribulations. It's been a lot of learning. It's been a lot of investing in myself. And when I first started out in 2006, it was pretty much the worst time to start buying real estate. And I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. So just a quick disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant, blah, blah, blah. So if you want any law or tax advice, I'm not the guy. You're going to want to talk to your own people. And investing is risky, and especially the investing that we do. All right. So I'll just put all my cards on the table. What we do is risky. All right. But with risk comes good reward. And I'll talk to you about those risks in depth tonight on deals that we've done well, deals that we've failed. All right. So a lot of investors aren't going to talk about their failures. I talk about them openly and plainly because, quite frankly, they make us better. All right. So real estate markets can change and you shouldn't get into this for speculation. All right. And I'm going to talk about that. So invest at your own risk and only buy what you can afford. So I'm guessing for many of you, this probably isn't your first rodeo in terms of webinars or, anything that's like educational when it comes to real estate. If you've attended a bunch of webinars, let's say, I don't know, more than 10 about real estate, type something in the chat box. I'd be curious to see if you've done that. I know I have. I've probably done all right, Greg and Mark, Chris, Karen. Yeah, I mean, I've done hundreds of them probably. I mean, everything I could do and absorb over the last several years, I've done it. And I'm going to make a promise to you tonight. All right. There's going to be no hard sell here. So I can assure you this will not be for everybody, and I don't want it to be. So I'm not in the business of selling courses. It's just not what I do. I'm in the business of buying and selling real estate, period. All right. So I'll tell you why I'm doing this in a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're either going to find a way to do this and make sense of it and see if it's for you, or you won't. And I told several of you on our phone calls that I have no interest in distracting you from what you're currently doing. If you're on a path that is working for you, you should stay on that path. All right. I am like the king of shiny object syndrome over the last 10 years. So I know it can be like demoralizing to get pulled off of something that is working. And I certainly don't want to contribute to that in your pursuit of greatness. So if what you're doing is getting there, or you're almost at the mark where it's about to take off, I encourage you to dive deep into that and don't get sidetracked. All right. So also, I'm not going to try and entice you with a bunch of, that typical webinar crap that you have to sit through, like, the bonus after bonus and perceived value of this and that. Like I said, I mean, it's either going to work for you or it won't. And this for me is about fulfilling an obligation to pay it forward, and just a way to help others get to where I've gotten, because the path that I've been put on was very generously laid before me. And I want to do the same for some other people that I know. So anyway, the result of doing all these webinars, at least for me, it kind of added up to one thing, and that was analysis paralysis. So essentially, I talked to several of you about this actually on our calls. It was, getting so much input that I couldn't take any kind of action. And that's the trouble with attending all of these webinars and everything. We live in an amazing age where you can literally find anything on the internet. Like, I heard Sean Whalen talking about this a couple of weeks ago. He said, if you want to build a rocket ship, Google will show you plans to build a rocket ship. It's like amazing. So, but one thing that can lead to is just this paralyzing fear of taking action because you don't know if it's the right thing. And I spent a better part of a decade doing work I hated because I couldn't get my ass off the sidelines and into the game. So if you've got concerns about seeing success in real estate and taking that leap, I'm with you. I mean, that failure that I've had in my past, it crushed me, it paralyzed me. So, it's really about taking a leap of faith at some particular point in time. And I know there's some specific people on here that I know have put it all on the line right now to go all in on real estate, which is really exciting. I love to see that because that means something great is really about to happen. So first of all, I'm no guru. So by the way, this is a picture of Sadhguru. If you don't follow him on LinkedIn, or I'm sorry, on Instagram, you really should. He's a pretty cool dude. But the big players in real estate, the, quote unquote gurus, I mean, they want you to think that sometimes this is really, really easy, and it's not. I mean, that's where I kind of got discouraged. I went to a lot of things. I spent money on a lot of courses, and what they don't tell you is that they're mostly getting paid to sell courses. I never really knew if they were actually doing deals. So, that was one thing that was kind of disconcerting. So my idea was to disrupt that a bit and give people the chance that I got to get involved in a great way. So I'm not selling a course to the masses. I'm limiting this to just a few people. And I was really reluctant to do this at all, but it's going to be a part of what serves my ultimate vision. And what I found was a lot of the courses that I attended and paid to go to were a lot of theory, spend a bunch of money on direct mail, go knock on doors, things like that. And all these things work, but most are starting with no money. And the most challenging piece is you're starting with no inventory. So if you talk to most investors, like I survey our database all the time, like what is their biggest challenge? Their two biggest challenges are finding deals and finding and funding the deals. That's it. Like those are the two biggest challenges. It's not the direct mail. It's not anything else. It's specifically finding the deal. Now, direct mail can be a part of that, but finding the deal is getting to be more and more cumbersome. And make no mistake about it, Zillow is coming to wipe wholesalers out of the industry. Like in 5 years, for wholesalers, the industry is going to be drastically different. So they are coming to change the game because they've got the audience, they've got the money, they've got the ability to capture people, because most people that are not real estate investors, they're just, let's say they're homeowners, Zillow is like gospel to them in terms of home value. So, it's going to change drastically. And I think now is a time where you can make a choice to begin to adapt to something that might serve you a little bit better. All right. So let me break down my intention for you. So ultimately, my intention is to get you involved in buying bank-owned properties with us. All right. At the end of the day, it serves us to have more investors to work with. All right. Because when we take down anywhere from 15 to 30 deals a month, we might not have the capacity to keep them all. So it would be good to have a network of investors that understand the game. They know how to distribute the properties. They've got their own buyers list. This is just networking 101 really. So what I'm doing is building a network of super smart investors that know how these deals work, and they can just continue and expand and help us continue to dominate the space that we're in. Next, my ultimate vision is to serve 10,000 families. I realized earlier this year, I was kind of planning out our year, and I was like, boy, 10,000 is a big number. And when you do the math on 10,000, serving 10,000 families to help them buy a house with owner financing, and our average note is about $400 a month, well, that number gets pretty damn exciting. The number that doesn't get exciting is the size that you have to grow to be able to serve 10,000 families. I believe it's possible. I just don't know the time frame of that. So my thought process is that I can expand quicker by building a bigger network of like-minded people. And by proxy, that same mission will get accomplished one way or the other. Also, like I said, I feel it's my duty and my obligation to pay forward what I've learned. And so I need the help of people that not only want to create wealth for themselves and for their families, but really they want to make a difference along the way. So if you're only in it for you, this would probably be a good time to sign off, because you're not going to align with my company's core values. We think service first and success follows after that. So let me tell you a little bit about my backstory. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I want you to understand, because you might be able to relate to it if you've spent any amount of time thinking about doing real estate. In the early 2000s, I was working for a little company that you may have heard of called Lehman Brothers. And if you've ever seen the movie The Big Short, I think that was in part based on my life. In fact, I could never watch that movie again. Like, my wife and I sat through it, and I literally almost got sick to my stomach because it was my life. But I made great money there, and I started buying rental properties. And in theory, we were doing it the right way. I mean, we were putting 20% down, proving our income, securing tenants. But the problem was we were overpaying for the properties. And we were speculating instead of buying for value and cash flow, and it ended up costing us big time. So when Lehman Brothers collapsed, my income was cut by 2/3, as was my wife's. And our tenants started losing their jobs because of the recession, and it just all started to collapse, and we were busted. So by the end of 2009, I thought I was done with real estate. Realistically, I was like, well, that didn't work out. So I guess I got to go get a different job. And unfortunately, the only job that I could really find at the time was selling financial services for New York Life. So, which was a great idea. Let me sell financial services in the worst economic recession since the Great Depression. So it was not a fun time in my life. I look back on those years painfully, I guess, but it added to the value of the person that I am today. But I went 4 to 5 years after that without even getting the courage to buy another deal. But I'd learned my lesson at that point and was now buying strictly for value and cash flow. And we started buying rental properties in Iowa, where I'm from, with a friend of my wife's. And we started out with one deal, same way, put 20% down, collect the rents. After a year, we refinanced that property, pulled some money out, bought another one. And, that was great. But I was sitting there thinking, I was like, there's just no way I'm going to get wealthy doing this. It's going to take 100 years, to build that up. But after the collapse, I spent almost a decade telling myself the story that I was destined to work for someone else in a field that I hated. And in the midst of this, my wife decided to go back to school and become a chiropractor. And her own personal renewal really inspired me that I could do it too. So I started looking for answers in real estate again. And I went to every workshop. Like I said, I went to every webinar, read every book. I watched hours of YouTube videos. I went to REO meetings. Literally, I did it all. I spent money we didn't have, and to learn stuff. And my wife probably thought I was nuts. But after attending all the courses and meetings, if you can relate to this at all, I was just finding it really difficult to find deals and just get out of the rat race. So I knew I wanted to get some freedom. I just didn't quite know how to get out of the gate. And quite frankly, I mean, the mistakes of our past in terms of real estate, the first go round, were still kind of haunting me. So something big happened at that point, and that's when my daughter Stella was born. And that little spark that I had about making a change became an inferno. And anyone with kids can probably relate to this because it changes you on a very, very deep level. And I started focusing heavily on personal development. And I discovered these guys right here: Grant Cardone, Andy Frisella, and Ed Milet. And if you don't follow these guys, I know some of you do in the group. You're in Arte with me, which, we are Arte. But if you don't follow these guys, you don't know who they are, I implore you to look them up on iTunes immediately and add them to your podcast list. They changed my life because I began to believe what was possible. These are three guys that came virtually from nothing, no silver spoon, built each, 9-figure companies. And that was really a moment shift, but it wasn't overnight. I mean, I spent a year heavy in personal development because I had a lot to change about myself. I was speaking with somebody earlier today about this opportunity. And I said, if you are not ready from a mentality standpoint, you should not do this. You should take time to find out what is not working inside of your own mind and fix it, because the best work you can do is for yourself. And I started getting deep into the law of attraction. And what really changed it all for me was Craigslist, believe it or not. So I tell people this all the time. Craigslist really changed my life. Like, Craig's got some really weird friends on that site, but man, I'm telling you, Craigslist works. Like, I was putting out into the universe, basically that I wanted to syndicate deals. And I put a post on Craigslist that I had money to fund deals, because at the time I was working with a lot of investors in South Florida who had money and they were interested in investing in real estate. And I thought, well, let me see if I could put together deals. And I got a call from this Southern guy, thick accent, whose greeting was, "My name is Odell Barnes, and this might be the greatest call you ever got." And I remember I was sitting in a parking lot waiting to get my hair cut, and I just started dying laughing. And I said, "How the hell did you get my number, Odell? And who are you?" And he started telling me what he was doing. He was looking for some funding to buy a package of deals. And once I heard what he was doing, I was interested. And I said, "Well, I'd love to meet you. Where are you?" And he said it was in Daytona Beach at his beach house. And I was like, "That's literally right down the road from my house." So I ended up meeting him. And after one meeting, he invited me to his home in South Carolina. I came home. I told my wife, I was like, "I'm going to South Carolina for a couple of days. I'm going to learn all about this business." And she must have thought I was nuts. Like, she's like, "You're going to go to a stranger's house and spend the weekend, and you have no idea who this person is." I was like, "And you met on Craigslist?" I was like, "Yes." So here's the address of where I'm going. If I don't come back, you know where to send the search party. So, but that entire post on Craigslist changed the trajectory of my life. So, but I never would have done that if I hadn't gone through the process of personal development first. So I work with Odell today. We're partners, and he taught me everything, continues to teach me daily. And like I said, I made a promise to the universe at that time, or God, whatever you want to call it. I said, if I can figure out a way that gives me the life that I want and that can perpetuate success for my family, then I would pass it along at some point. So that's what I'm doing. All right. So now you know my story. Let me tell you a little bit about what we do. So these are a couple of examples of the assets that we buy. Aren't they peaches? So usually we buy assets that, for lack of the better words, they're the deals that nobody else wants to buy. All right. They've probably gone through several rounds of online auctions, and the bank just hasn't gotten the number that they want. And because of this, we end up getting the deals at a big, big discount. And bank-owned auction properties, they really kind of create a unique opportunity. It allows you not only to accumulate wealth by flipping the properties, but you can create a great passive income by becoming the bank. All right. So being a bank is good business. All right. That's why banks have so much damn money. They pay us next to nothing in interest, and yet they take that money, they relend it, and get a higher interest rate. So this strategy, what's even better is it works in all markets. All right. So you don't get caught up in the feeding frenzy of a buyer's market or a seller's market. All right. You don't have to worry about that, because at the end of the day, we're all about buying these at the right price and the right value. All right. So we do not chase deals. There are always going to be more deals. So the bank either takes the price that we give, or we don't do the deal. And we're never going to get emotionally involved on a deal, because there's always going to be more, coming down the pike. So when the market changes at some point, it's got to at some point, right? Like, we're in a very, very historical long run of a great market. All right. And when it does change, we've been doing a tremendous amount of cash deals this past 6 to 8 months. Like, we're flipping properties like nobody's business. But when the market changes, it's going to shift to an owner finance model. All right. So when you get into this business, one thing, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in terms of raising private money, but raising private money changes everything. And this is the best time to do it, because once the market changes, people are going to lock up tight on their money. They're going into protection mode. So they're not going to give their money to people they don't trust. Like, they're going to pull it out of Wall Street. They're going to sit on it. So the best time to do this is now, because, and this isn't a sales pitch, this is reality, because you can develop the relationship now where you can show how this works. And then they're going to trust you when the market turns down. And I'm telling you guys, I am waiting on this market change, because when it does, it is the most opportune time to get rich. And I mean ridiculously rich, because everybody runs away from these deals, and people panic, they forget about it, they run on emotion. And the people that have logic on their side and know that they can buy these deals and people are going to need them are really going to benefit very, very well in the long term. So let me take a drink. Usually don't talk this much. So what I got into here was, basically trying to, when we buy these deals, I want to leave meat on the bone for the investors. If you've done any kind of wholesaling or anything like that, this is very important. All right. I've looked at tons of wholesale deals in the market where wholesalers are trying to sell me a deal for like 85% of the after repair value. And it's like, where am I going to make money if I got to put repairs into this place? So I didn't want to be a part of that model. So this model allows me to buy a property at anywhere from 20 to 40 cents on the dollar. And I can turn around and sell that deal for 50 to 60 cents on the dollar to an investor. We get a quick rip, our investor gets a good deal, and they come back and buy more. All right. In terms of owner financing, I don't get the same tax benefits as I do with a rental, but I get a lot of peace of mind, because we don't do anything to the properties. We make no repairs. We sell them 100% as is, and we don't have to manage any tenants We don't have to manage any repairs. We don't have to manage management companies. And that's a whole other thing in of itself, because you really got to keep an eye on a management company like a hawk, because they can try to rip you off. But I don't get the depreciation like I do with rentals, but I get a paper asset that I can turn around and sell, a note. All right. And there's a whole other marketplace for that. So, which is one thing that we'll definitely talk about in the training. So we're working to create a significant amount of wealth through notes. I mean, I'd do notes all day if I could. Like, that's my favorite thing in the world to do. The trouble is that at some point you have to recapitalize or continue to raise private money. All right. So let me share some of our deals with you. I'm going to share some of our first deals that we did. And in terms of cash deals, owner finance, and some deals that haven't worked out along the way. So this little gem was a property that we bought in Whitmire, South Carolina. I think literally this was the first deal that we bought when we opened our business. And we bought this November 2017 for $5,500. It was I actually did go to this property when I was visiting Odell, and it was in decent shape, actually. I mean, it didn't, needed rehab work on the interior, but I mean, all things considered, it was a decent little house. And we bought it for $5,500 and ended up selling it for $7,500 within a month. So that's a 36% ROI. But if you annualize it, which is the most important number, because we're talking about velocity of capital here, how many times can we take money and turn it over and over and over again? That's where it begins to get really, really exciting. All right. Oh, by the way, this property, remember I was telling you before how we use offers to build big relationships. Well, this person or this group that bought our property here, they've ended up buying more than a dozen from us. They're one of our bigger buyers. And it's because I didn't try to rake them over the coals on price. I never do. So, and I know for fact, not on this deal, but on several other deals, like they've made a lot of money on deals that I sold them. And I get excited about that, like genuinely, because that means they're winning. And if they win, that means I continue to win. So this is a relationship business, 100%. Like, this is the biggest thing in real estate, in any business, really. It's all relationships. But if you can keep the buyer happy and they're coming back and you're giving them consistently good deals, they'll take as many of them off your hands as they can. And that's a beautiful thing. So this next deal was in Stuttgart, Arkansas. And this property we bought for $15,000 and sold it 2 months later for $19,000. This also created an awesome relationship with an investor out of Texas who buys Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Florida. And so we got a 26% ROI on this, 194% annualized. And this guy is now one of my good buddies. In fact, he took me to my first Dallas Cowboys game. He had season tickets, 10 rows up. I mean, amazing. So, and it's because I continually feed him good deals. Like, literally, I went out to Dallas and he hosted me, took me all over football game, introduced me to a bunch of people. And he was like genuinely trying to keep me a secret from his other investor buddies, because he's like, I want the deals. Like, I don't want these guys getting the deals. You only send them to me. And if they don't fit for me, then I'll send them to them. So it's a pretty cool, fun experience that you can have in this business, just building relationships and being intentional about it. Same buyer bought this property in Crestview. What's funny about this deal is that if you look at the roof, there was a big tarp on it. And anything we get in Florida, I pretty much buy, because it doesn't last long. But we bought this deal and we had several people go out and look at it. And I got calls back that said, oh my God, this place is terrible. It's full of mold. It should really be torn down. Like, that was the feedback I literally got from, I don't even remember, but several people. And I sent it to my buyer out in Texas. He looked at it. He's like, I love it. He's like, I'll take it. So we bought this for 11 grand, ended up selling it to him for 15.5, and nice little ROI. And I just followed up with him because I was curious. I was like, what did you end up selling that deal for? He ended up putting about 35,000 into this deal, and he sold it for 100,000 before he even had it finished. So I love that. That was super exciting to hear, and why it's such a great relationship. So this deal in St. Joseph, Missouri, we bought for 2,500, sold it for 7,500 in 2 months. Again, the ROI is great. These are quick rips, guys. Like, I don't, these might seem like small potatoes. Like maybe you're working on a wholesale deal where your wholesale fee is going to be like 25,000. That's great, but start doing volume of it and start adding owner finance to it. And it really changes the game on what you can do. The thing about wholesaling, it's a job. Like, it requires constant effort. All right. Unless you're going to build a team and you start and you get very, very good at it. You can do that as well. I know guys like Mark Evans that crushes it wholesaling, and he has a whole team. He doesn't even touch his business. Like, he's just got the systems in place and, has done that. And we've applied that in our business where every day I'm getting less and less involved in the business. So, and it's the only reason I even have time to do this. Like, if somebody asked me to do this a year ago, there's no possible way. Like, I was just too busy working inside of the business. But this is a business that you can begin to scale and hire people to do it for you. Once you get, several deals under your belt, you begin to have some capital to work with. And that's a good thing. This deal, I putting this webinar together, I went and looked up this deal just out of curiosity because I just got back from Columbus. I was talking to a bartender there. I went out to eat. I was at this event with Mark Evans doing a little masterminding, and I was curious, like, the market, because Columbus is an awesome town. If you've never been, I'd encourage you to go, but there were no deals for sale hardly anywhere, it seemed like. And the bartender had just gotten his real estate license, and he said something like there was only, 15,000 deals for however many people, 1 million people or whatever live in that area. So it's virtually no inventory. And I haven't gotten another deal in Columbus in a while, but we got this one. We bought it for 7,000 and we sold it 2 months later for 9,900. And I saw that this property sold, I think it was for like 80 or 90,000. So I know he had to put some work into it, but again, I was thrilled. So, and this guy, without fail, every month he emails me, "You got any more deals in Columbus?" And I'm trying desperately to get him to branch out from Columbus so he can buy some more properties from me. But these don't seem like tremendous wins, but when you do them 15, 20 times a month, it begins to add up, right? So nice little ROI here. This one was one of our first big deals. I say big tongue in cheek, but this one in High Point, North Carolina. North Carolina always sells nicely. Bought it for 20, sold it in 2 months for 35,000. Sweet little ROI there. That was our first like decent, 5-figure rip, so to speak. So that was really exciting. So let's get into some owner finance deals. Any questions about those cash deals? If you got some questions, type them in. I'd like this to be, not me just dictating to you. If you've got questions along the way, let's talk about them. So owner financing, basically, when you start out, if you're raised just a little bit of money, you're going to take whatever the market brings to you. That's how we advertise deals. We advertise them both in terms of cash deals and owner finance, and we take whatever the market brings to us. So this deal in Ralph, Alabama, we bought this for 15,000, and our target is always to sell for 2.5 to 3 times the purchase price. So that way we can create a note that maybe has some equity and value in it that we can sell if we want to. And we'll talk more in depth about that in the training, but we owner finance this deal. We got $5,000 of our purchase price back right away. and we're getting $400 a month for 10 years. So within just a few years, our investment will be paid off, and then it'll just be free money after that. All right. So 47% return on investment. This one was, and by the way, guys, let me talk about this deal. Ralph, Alabama, if you look it up on the map, like you couldn't even figure out where the hell it is. A lot of the deals we buy tend to be in the sticks. And let me tell you about the sticks. People don't leave the sticks. All right. So they're dug in like ticks. So they've got family there. They want to live there. It's where they grew up. It's all they know. And it's like the easiest transaction in the world because they know the area, they're familiar with it, and they just want a home for themselves. They're tired of renting. And so those are some of our favorite places to buy. Yes, we do well in places like Columbus and, Cincinnati and, bigger markets, but the little like smaller community areas, like I think Ralph, Alabama is outside of Tuscaloosa, maybe if I remember correctly. So it's on the skirts, but that ended up being just like they saw it, they wanted it, and it was a done deal. So, and that's awesome. Detroit is a great place to buy. It's been awesome for us. And Odell did a deal there during the recession where he bought 1,000 houses for $1,000. Made a ridiculous amount of money. It's not quite like that anymore, but Detroit's actually come very far back. There's lots of exciting things happening in Detroit, a lot of renovations, and there's still a lot of opportunity there. So we buy there whenever it makes sense. But we bought this place for $5,500, and you can see here that we only sold it for $10,000, but it's a short note. It's only 3 years. So we got $3,000 back, $226 a month. And our ROI was 103% on this deal. Now, interesting little side note about this deal. We sold this to an investor that was looking to get his start in real estate in Detroit. And he didn't have a whole lot of money to work with, but he said, you know what, I'm handy. I can go in, I can fix this place up, make it a rental property. And now he's bought several deals from me on owner financing. And, he's my go-to guy in Detroit. If I got a deal first, I call him. If I need something on one of the properties that we buy, I call him, and I trust him, and he loves us. So, we've given him an opportunity to get his foot in the door in real estate investing. And again, I can't stress enough relationships. It's what makes this world go round. This is one of my favorite deals that we did. This is in Carriere, Mississippi, which I have no idea where it is, but it was on like 3 acres of land, I think, and it was like 5 bedrooms. And we bought this place for $18,500. This was like one of our first good, like super solid owner finance deals. And we got a note on it for $65,000. They put $5,000 down, so the note's actually about $60,000, and we're getting $515 a month on a 30-year note. Now, this deal, if you do the math, we've had this deal for a year and a half now. I can take this note to the market and probably sell it easily for 70% of its unpaid balance, which is probably, I don't know, let's say the unpaid balance is about $55,000 right now. So if I sell it for 70% of that, that's $38,500. All right. So I've gotten $5,000 that they put down, and I've gotten $515 a month for the last 18 months. And I'll get $38,500 back. So basically I'm going to trade my $515 a month and the property for $38,500, which is $20,000 more than what I paid for it. Plus, the $515 for 18 months, which is another $9,200 and another $5,000. So that's a good little deal. So I've not sold this note yet. I really don't have an interest in selling this note yet, because here's what I believe about this property. The guy that bought it is a carpenter by trade. He was self-employed. And I believe he's going to refinance it. So, because he was going in, putting all new stuff in, he sends us pictures. He's like, look what I did. I put in all these new floors. His family's there. I have no doubt in my mind this guy's going to refinance it. So why would I take a discount on the note when I can get paid out the full amount at some point down the road? And I love the income. So I don't need all that money back right now. So that is how magical the note business and owner financing can get. All right, so how about some deals that don't work? All right, not a lot of people are going to show you these. I'm an open book, so I'll tell you about some deals that really kind of shit the bed. All right, so here's one in Winsboro, South Carolina. I hated this property. I never wanted to buy it in the first place, but it was part of a package, and so we reluctantly took it. And this deal we bought for $6,500. And as you can see, we bought it in March 2018 and finally sold it in February 2019 for $4,000. Now, I went to this property. This was not a duplex, as one might think. They have this weird thing in the South where they've got 2 front doors. I don't really understand that, but this deal was terrible. Like the house was it was on a corner lot. The grass was literally like 4 feet tall. You know, I think I got fleas when I walked in it. It was just bad. And so we were literally just happy to dump it. So this is a deal, an example of a deal that just did not work. So I didn't even like the property all that much from a neighborhood perspective when we bought it. But like I said, I mean, the package we bought and did really, really well. And sometimes that's how this business works. Like we're going to take, you know, the risk and knowing that 90% of the deals are going to work, 10% aren't. And that's just the way it goes. So you have to be able to have a mindset that can stand that wherewithal. Here's another deal in St. Louis. I'll just tell you all right now, I hate St. Louis, not just because it's got the Cardinals, but because I don't like dealing with the city. I will never buy another deal in St. Louis again. If I work with investors that love St. Louis, doesn't mean it won't work well for anybody here or anybody that buys deals from us in St. Louis, because we do still buy deals there from us. We just kind of hand them off to other investors that we know like the area. But I started out in St. Louis myself, and I bought like 4 deals there, and only one of them worked out. And this one we bought for $4,500 in April 2018, and ended up selling it for $1,000, you know, a year later. So the entire back wall of this house was gone. Like it was literally being held up by one corner of cinder blocks in the back. Like I don't even know how it was still standing, but that's just an example of a deal that did not work. And now it'll keep me out of St. Louis. And it's not just this one. It was a combination of a couple others, but yeah, St. Louis is while I like the town I like going there. I have family there. I will not be investing there. This one was in Clovis, New Mexico. We bought it for $13,000 in June, and it just did not sell. Like it took, again, this was part of a package, and it's just one deal that didn't work, and we took a haircut on it just to get rid of it. So you can see that like these deals, they're not, I told you at the beginning, these are risky. So there are times you're going to get burned, and that's where private money is so important, because if you go into this buying, just let's say you say, hey, Ben, I'm interested. I want to get involved. I want to buy a property for myself. Buying one property exponentially increases your risk, because if it turns out like this one, you could lose. So that's why buying, you know, several at a time is really the game when it comes to this business. So all things considered, 9 out of our last 120 deals have lost money. So I'd say that's pretty good. And the other, you know, 111 deals have done quite well. So again, this is a numbers game, plain and simple. Any questions about the owner financing piece? Excuse me. No? All right. You got to admit though, the owner financing piece is pretty sexy. Like once you start seeing like the note income start to trickle in. Okay. Here, Josh, what's the average rate on a loan? Great question. We try to be somewhere between 9.5% and 10%. Depends on what state we're in and what the maximum cap is allowed by the state. Do we have a department that follows each of the notes and how many have defaulted? Yes, Mark, great question. We use a third-party servicing company. So every month we get a statement with our check, and we can kind of see where each note is. When we first started out, I talked to all the borrowers on the property. So I have a relationship with them. And if something gets late, I am proactive on it. I'm calling them and saying, hey, what's going on? But we also tell them in the beginning, like, hey, listen, if something happens where you can't make a payment, you need to communicate with us. Because if you communicate with us, we'll work with you. And at the end of the day, it's more expensive for me to change over the people that are in there. If it's not going to work, it's not going to work. But at the end, like I said, we want to keep people in the homes. A lot of these people, what you have to realize, they've never been good at managing money, and they have never owned a home before. They don't know what to expect. So we try to educate them along the way on, and we don't put just anybody into the home. Like, we're checking their debt to income ratio. We don't want them to have above a debt to income ratio that Fannie Mae requires, or FHA. So we're really not just putting people in there, rolling the dice and saying, okay, let's hope it works out. That's not our MO. And if you get involved in this, you should not either. You should really try to do what's best for people. I don't think I need to say that, but maybe I should, because first of all, if you start putting people in bad situations, you're going to see bad press, because these people have an outlet. It's called the internet. So, we try to treat everybody as fairly as we possibly can. And you're absolutely right, Mark. The two-way street of communication is so good, because it makes it just a much better situation. All right. Any other questions about owner financing? All right. So these are the people that I want to work with personally. You want to create passive income. That's, I think, really where this business is going to be heading once the market changes. So yeah, flipping is always very sexy. Like, people see the numbers, and if I showed you our sheet, you'd be like, okay, I want to flip deals. And that's great. I love flipping deals. Like, there's nothing better. But knowing that, shortly, like I said, the market is going to shift. And when it does, it's going to be a great opportunity to build up some passive income. And really, what I'm talking about here, guys, is like a serious way to be able to build your wealth. I'm talking like net worth on paper very, very quickly. All right. So if you do, let's just say 10 notes in a year that you bought, let's say each property for $5,000, and you're selling them for 3 times that amount. I mean, you can do the math on what your net worth adds up to in just the first year. Excuse me. So this is really, a wealth creation tool more than anything. You got to have a strong desire to help others. Like I said, we want to treat people fairly because at the end of the day, we want people to recommend us. That's like the ultimate vision. Is like, I've gotten so many recommendations for people that bought a deal from us on owner finance, where we continue to send them our deals. And maybe if it's in their area, they tell a family member and they go buy a house. That's happened on multiple occasions. So when you look to serve first, great things happen. You got to work hard. Like, this business is not going to be something that is overnight. Like, I'm just telling you, it's going to take a tremendous amount of hard work in the beginning, like building the relationships, getting all your systems in place. When we started out, it was just me and my partner, John and Odell. And I mean, we were, returning messages on Facebook and, at all hours. So I was literally working, 16, 18 hours a day, because I constantly was working from my phone, answering emails, calls, texts, Facebook messages. So in upfront, we're going to require a tremendous amount of effort. And you got to have a great attitude. Like, if you're negative, I have no desire to work with you. I spent a lot of my life negative. So I'm not trying to go back to that place, so I eliminate negativity on every opportunity that I can. And, I just want to work with fun people, like people that are serious about taking it to the next level. So there's a couple of ways you can get involved. All right. So one is active learning. This is essentially where we're going to teach you the entire process from A to Z. We'll be able to, show you exactly what we do, how we do it, and passive learning or passive income. So you can, if you're like, hey, I got a full-time gig, but I've got some money. This has happened a couple of times since I had brought this up. I had a guy message me who's an attorney, and he's like, hey, I'm not going to quit being an attorney. I don't have time to go sell deals, but I'm interested in investing. And we're in talks now. He's probably going to be one of our private money people. So there's a couple of different ways that you can get involved, just depending upon where you're at. But if you're wanting to learn real estate and, what I've shown you is interesting, the active learning is a good way to go. So we'll teach you, like I said, in the active learning, we'll teach you exactly what we do, how we do it, show you how we were able to raise $2 million in private money. Our first person gave us $140,000 to work with. And that, we worked for 6 to 8 months. And then last year we raised over $2 million just from one person. Or one group. It was actually a fund. So it gets really exciting when you learn how to do the private money thing. All right. And then we'll demonstrate how we bid, what we bid on, and get you access to our relationships, which is extremely valuable. All right. So these are relationships that, Odell has been cultivating for decades with the auction companies and banks. And then you'll have a chance to earn while you learn the system because we'll give you access to sell our deals. So I think the best way to learn anything is to get your hands dirty and get in it. And so this will help us, and we can help you, learn the process, just by getting in it and getting involved. So you'll learn how to market the deals. You'll learn, how to communicate with the buyer. You'll learn the contracts. You'll learn dealing with the title companies. You'll learn all the ins and outs of owner financing and putting together the deal. So it's a really good way to get involved. And like I said, we're essentially going to pull back the curtain, and this will be, a 60, 90-day process that we'll go through in terms of education and, just communicating with you probably on a daily basis. We'll have like a private Facebook group where we'll share successes and challenges and all that fun stuff, but also, working deals with you, negotiating the deals and running those communications and helping you with that so that you really begin to get a good grasp of how this is going to work. This is what we'll cover in the training. Some of my brothers in here from Arete might not need a whole lot of help with mindset, but we're going to focus on it a little bit, especially in terms of goal setting. Like I said, we'll teach you how to look at the deals, how to build your team, the people you're going to need on your team in order to make it work. We'll give you access to our relationships that we've built with third-party vendors that will help you, with your notes and things of that nature. Deal funding, we'll talk heavily about raising private money and then building your buyers list, bidding on the deals, dealing with the deeds and title companies, marketing your deals, and exit strategies. We talked about, cash deals, owner financing. The best part about owner financing that I didn't even talk about is you can get super creative with it. Like the sky's the limit because you are the bank. Like there's really no limit on what you cannot do, which is a really cool thing. Excuse me. So, and then we'll talk about closing, servicing, and, finding buyers for your notes as well. Any questions about content and stuff that we'll be talking about in that? Feel free to type those in if you got them. All right. So passive investing, again, you can get involved. If you're somebody that just wants a consistent return on your money, your desire to work with someone that's got the systems in place and a track record, that's us. We've got great references, people that we already work with that we can share with you. And you don't have the time to do this full time. Like that's really, probably a better fit for you if that happens to be you. And if you've got an interest in purchasing notes for passive income, we're always open to talking about selling some of our notes. And, that's an opportunity as well. So we work with a bunch of great note buyers and people that are just like, hey, I've got lazy assets in a 401k. I'm getting a little nervous about stock market. let me move this over to self-directed. I'll buy some paper assets that are invested in real property. All right. Let me give you a couple of people that you can talk to and look up. All right. These are some investors that I work with who are now my friends. This is my buddy Beyond Win. I met Beyond, I think, maybe on Facebook or something like that. I don't really remember, but he's a turnkey investor out of Cleveland, one of my favorite markets. And he's very successful there. He's always working, 5-6 deals at a time. He's bought several deals from us over the past year. And I just asked him, I was like, hey man, how much have you made, working our deals? And he's like, oh, easily over 6 figures. So I was just up in his market when I was in Columbus. I drove up to Cleveland to go see him and hang out. And he showed me around the whole city and like what the best places to buy were. So, I mean, again, I cannot stress enough about relationships. Like this guy, what's awesome about him, and if you don't follow him, you should on Instagram. He is super motivated. He's very clear about what he wants. And he's just good people. Like he's just a great, great person. So that's somebody you can check out. And then my other buddy, Dan Zatofsky, we were RTA together. I invited him as my guest because he's a good friend of mine. He's a very successful real estate investor. In fact, Dan taught me a lot about raising private money, which I would share with you. He's a turnkey investor. He lives in Delaware, but he did a joint venture deal with us just on a couple of deals and got himself a nice little 71% ROI. Yeah, I mean, these are just a couple of people that you can look up and talk to if you got questions about us and, our business. Totally get it. I would do that too. So the biggest question I think is, can you see yourself doing this? Like, I know you're probably thinking like, all right, I'm going to need a whole bunch of money to start this. Again, I started with none of my own money. I just went out and raised money. So first thing I did, I'll break this down for you guys. I started selling deals for Odell, just became a resource. And that's why I'm basing this whole platform off of this, because this is exactly how I got to where I am today. I became a resource. I started selling deals. I learned the process from A to Z, made a ton of mistakes. But once I started moving a bunch of deals, word began to spread. And we took that data to the marketplace and began to raise money off of it. That's the same thing you're going to be able to do with this. So we're going to give you the properties to sell, give you the data that you can take to the marketplace and say, look, this is what the property was bought for. This is what it sold for. This is the wealth it created. Let's put together some money so we can take down 10, 20 of these things ourselves. And it's really just a stepping stone to get you there. So a lot of, again, I wanted to give an opportunity to earn back some of what you'd invest into this, so I think it's important that you maintain an investment in it, because you do get anything for free, it's not worth it. But, and you're not going to need to raise private money before you start. The idea here is to learn it, the ins and outs. If you think about, well, I don't have auction or bank relationships, we do. All right. So you can work with our relationships. I always tell people, like, if you think about going to China to buy t-shirts and you're competing with Walmart, you're never going to get the same price as Walmart. This literally happens all the time. It just happened on a deal that I bought in a town close to my hometown in Rock Island, Illinois, where an investor called right after we got a sign on it. And he said, hey, I was bidding on this deal at auction and you guys won it. And I bid $10,000. And I just got really excited because we bought it for $5,000. This literally happens all the time. And I'll tell you why. Because the bank knows we're going to buy the deal. Like, we're not even going to question it. That is power. So even somebody bid more than us, they still gave us the deal. I got the deal, the guy, for $10,000 and quickly doubled our money. So, but this happens all the time because of our relationships with these banking and auction companies. And you guys can ride in on those coattails, all right, which is a pretty cool thing. So yeah, I mean, and the other thing too is you won't be competing with a lot of the people on those websites, the auction.com, the Zoom, Hubzu. Those are all places you can still bid, but a lot of times you're bidding against yourself. So we'll teach you a lot of those tricks. All right. So I talked about earn while you learn. All right. So essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to give you an ability to sell our deals. And now we have our own sales staff. So I got to make sure that, they've got sufficient enough deals to make their own targets and, income that they need. But we've got about 130 properties in inventory right now. So we'll let you run with a couple of them and make some deals. All right. So essentially you'll be selling them for what we advertise them for, and we will pay you guys a commission so that you can earn back, a portion of what you're investing. So the investment is this: if you want to do an active learning, it's $3,500. If you want to be a passive investor, the minimum investment that we take is $25,000, and we can talk more about terms on that on a separate call. But this is essentially the platform. All right. So unlike other courses that, teach you and say, all right, go get it, go good luck. We're essentially going to allow you to hit the ground running so that you can start to build a business of your own, buying these distressed assets, and you'll get hands-on experience with us. My partner, John, who I didn't mention, by the way, John Leggett, he worked for Hudson and Marshall Auction Company for over 20 years as the vice president of sales. So he's my partner. So he's going to be teaching a lot of the content in terms of negotiation, sales, bidding and all that good stuff. We'll probably even get Odell, I'm sure, on a call or two, and maybe some other professionals that I can introduce you to in terms of notes and great things like that, that'll be a great resource for you. I'm going to put in here a little link. I just shared the link. That's the link. If you want to do the course or become an investor, just reach out to, you can reach out to me separately if you want to be a passive investor. But it's important here to note that, again, this isn't for everybody. And I recognize that. So you might not be in a position to do this yet. All right. And that's okay. I've been there myself. So this might not be right for you now. It might be right for you in 6 months. And that's okay too. So like I said, if you're working on what you're doing now and it's starting to work for you and you're doing well at it, then I encourage you to continue on that path and do what you're doing. All right. So again, I want to work with a handful of people and, really just show them the ropes, develop them, and make them great investors so that we can continue to have an ongoing profitable relationship for years to come. That's like my ultimate vision. I think would be pretty awesome. If you want overnight success, this ain't going to be for you. If you're greedy and looking to hit home runs on every deal, this ain't going to be for you. This is all about hitting singles. Like, you could hit nothing but singles and make it to the Hall of Fame, right? So, you don't need to swing for the fences on every deal. Again, if you're negative, got a bad attitude, or you're a constant victim, this isn't for you. All right. Here's the deal, guys. Like, there are going to be tough days doing this because you will get a shitty property from time to time. Like, there will be a bad deal. There will be a problem, and you have to overcome it. So, but those days are few and far between, but they do happen. So you have to have the wherewithal to be able to move past that. All right. But if you want to model a business that works, build a solid network of investors, and make an impact while creating long-term wealth for yourself, then this might be for you. And I encourage you to check it out. I'm going to keep it open until Friday, so you got time. If you've got follow-up questions, you want to talk to me offline, you all have my number. You can reach out to me via email, Facebook, smoke signal, whatever works for you. Finally, if we do bring you onto this, you will be required to sign a very tight non-circumvent, non-disclosure. All right. Our relationships are everything to us, and we'll be giving you access to those. So as you can imagine, we want to protect those. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions? Can I email the sign up link? Yes, brother, I can. Any other questions that I can answer about what I just covered? Speak now, forever hold your peace, sort of thing. We'll probably be starting the course in the middle of August. I've got a lot of traveling that I'm doing over the next couple of weeks, but I'm going to shoot for a target date to start on August the 19th. So anyway, so I've gone on here for about an hour, which I'm about to lose my voice, but thank you guys for attending. What time of day will the course be taught? Great question, Karen. You know, probably what I will do is talk with the people that join and get a consensus of what time is best and try to work with that. But I'm guessing it's going to be during the day. Mike, yes, there are payment options. You can do a single pay or a 2-payment plan. All right. So yeah, it will be most likely during the day, and then maybe we'll have some Q&A in the evenings. We could do like a little Facebook Live or a Zoom call where we can brainstorm. Guys, this is, I think one of the coolest things about this is going to be the network that we build. The investors that I work with, I don't look at them as competitors. I look at them as my friends, and they bring a tremendous amount of value to the table. And, you know, I think as we learn and grow together, you guys are going to bring stuff to the table that I don't know. So as we learn and grow together, you know, this will begin to develop into, you know, a quasi REO mastermind style. So, you know, where we can really share ideas that help the group grow overall. And I'm not a master by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I'm still learning stuff every day. We've gotten very good at what we do, but I know that as markets change, as influence or social media changes, there's going to be changes that come along the way. Like we do amazing things with Facebook Marketplace. That may not last forever. Facebook might see that as a monetization thing when it comes to real estate, and they might change the game on us. So we have to evolve. But I think ultimately we're going to build some pretty fantastic relationships as investors in this group. So any other questions? All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll email you all the link just in case, but I appreciate you coming in, spending some time with me. And, if you don't do this, that's great. It's fine with me. Like, I don't need to do this course, but if you don't, the best piece of advice I can give you, whatever you are, whatever you're doing right now, is start taking massive action, because it will change the game for you. Just jump. All right. So just jump, take the jump and start doing it, because once you do, it creates a tremendous amount of momentum, and, it just snowballs. So, and it's a beautiful thing. So the best thing I ever did was just jump and take the action. So you guys have a great night. I appreciate you. And I look forward to talking with you all soon. Cheers.